And the other thing is because I do work with a lot of speakers, trainers, coaches, and consultants, they tend to give away too much of the how. So, for example, we talk about what and why, but people pay for the how. And so that's a very good formula to keep.
Real world stories and financial insights for every small business owner. Welcome to Dollars and Cents.
Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show where we share real world stories and practical strategies to help you shield your profits. Hi, I'm your host, Katy Martinez, the Profit Finder. If you're a small business owner who's ever worried about an unpredictable bank balance, then you're going to just love this conversation. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that directly impacts every dollar you keep, your sales process. Our episode title says it all: Sales Secrets That Stop Bank Account Dips. And to unlock these secrets, we have an absolute legend in the world of sales joining us. He's not just a coach, he's a practitioner who makes over 100 sales calls a week. My guest is Global Guru's top 30 sales trainer, the CEO and co-founder of Pici and Pici Inc., and someone whose coaching has personally helped me transform my own business, Mr. Joe Pici. Joe, it's truly an honor to have you on Dollars and Cents. I talk a lot about shielding your profits, but everything starts with generating revenue. Thank you for showing our audience the power of a real sales system.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I can't believe it's been a while since we spent time together. You haven't gotten any older at all. I've gotten older. I've lost a lot of hair, but I'm excited to help your listeners, gain, attract, and retain quality clients.
And that's one of the best things you did at helping me. Joe, one of the things we have in common is that we both run small businesses. One of the things I struggled with, particularly in the first years of my business, were unpredictable cash flow swings. What would you say is the single biggest secret or mindset shift a small business owner needs to adopt to stop those stressful swings?
Well, I think, first of all, the small business person a lot of times is in love with their product. They spend a lot of money on their website or their building or whatever, and they really don't master sales. And sales is the only thing that makes you money. So to keep from having those dips, which put 95% of businesses out of business, they've got to have a solid sales process. And they have to master the skills under that process. And then they have to execute those processes and skills daily.
Well, can you share a story about a client you worked with who was struggling with an unpredictable bank balance? And tell us about the first sales activity you changed for them that led to more consistent cash flow?
Absolutely. In fact, 99% of the businesses, because I work in small business, medium and large companies, as well as entrepreneurs, and they all have one common denominator. They struggle with sales. Otherwise, they don't work with me. And so I can think of someone who just came to our boot camp. She was a consultant. She worked in a major corporation. She decided to go out on her own and open up her own consulting company. She did all the things that they do. She spent a lot of money on a website, and she invested money in here. And she took low-hanging fruit, which were the people who knew her very well. And then she hit a wall, and she started to run out of money. And actually to the point where, and she couldn't get her job back. So she came in, and we worked with her in our sales boot camp on learning all the skills and processes of sales. And on day 3, we did live outbound calls, and she never made an outbound call in her life. She was able to book 10 quality appointments. Then we repackaged her up in our business of speaking, training, coaching boot camp, really refined her target market, cleaned up her branding, taught her how to do a quality sales meeting. And within 24 hours of the boot camp, she picked up 4 paying clients. Now, how did that affect her? That literally got her out of trouble. She now is running a cash flow business. I spoke to her yesterday, and she's continuing to use the processes, book appointments, close business. Her husband's much happier.
Yeah, it's amazing how the stress pours off once there's money coming in the door. Well, Another common problem business owners have is doing too much free consulting or giving away too many bids that go nowhere.
Right.
What's the secret to qualifying a prospect early that saves the business from wasting time and resources?
Let's talk about the mindset to begin with. You're not supposed to sell to everybody, and you're not supposed to sit across the table from everyone. So it all starts with a powerful value proposition. So, for example, if I was calling you, Kate, and I would say, Kate, I specialize in helping businesses and individuals generate quality leads, book more appointments, and close more business, and you had no interest in that, there'd be no reason for me to talk to you. So why would I set up a meeting which really starts to affect my cash flow and talk you into working with me, which is a big mistake. And then what they do is they put too much information in the proposal. So they take the proposal and they go to their brother-in-law and say, can you do this for me for nothing? And the other thing is, because I do work with a lot of speakers, trainers, coaches, and consultants, they tend to give away too much of the how. So for example, we talk about what and why, but people pay for the how. And so that's a very good formula to keep.
So the secret is stop telling everybody upfront how to do it. Just help them understand why they want to and what it is that they're going to be able to help them do.
Absolutely.
You talk a lot about recapturing lost revenue. Can you give us a real life example of a common sales follow-up mistake that causes a delay in payment, essentially causing that bank account dip, and how your system closes that leak?
Well, again, I think we have to look at our economy right now. We have to look at the economy of 2008. We have to look at COVID. We have to look at so many times that the economy has cycled. We also have to look at when people have faced illness in their life or tragedy or something else. Everybody has faced situations in their business where, hey, cash flow goes down and now we have to make a decision. Do we still do this? Well, I think the best way to recapture lost revenue is, number one, jump right into a process of generating leads in your target market. Then step two would be to get your outreach going, pick up the phone and book quality appointments. And then number three, so vital, how many quality sales meetings, or what we call core stories, are we doing? Once you get those three things in place, that will recapture momentum when people are looking over my shoulder here at my whiteboard. All those meetings and proposals from June 1st until yesterday, I have 290 formal proposals out. So how do you recapture lost revenue? You got to get back to work on the very thing that generates revenue, which is sales.
In fact, I remember you being right there saying that to me on the phone when I was in one of those seasons. And it was like, what are you going to do about it? And what's going to be worse, the pain of making those cold calls or the pain of going out of business? And I'm like, oh, if I put it in that mindset,
Yeah.
I can handle some rejection on cold calls.
Exactly.
And I did. And thanks to you, I had a customer after a couple of weeks of those cold calls, which actually surprised the heck out of me because I wouldn't have had it otherwise. So when you're helping a business owner build a sales strategy, how do you coach them to make sure their pricing and value proposition are strong enough to account for all the necessary costs and, crucially, deliver sufficient profit margin for the business?
Well, you said the right word, profit margin. It's not how much you sell it for, it's how much do you keep. And I don't believe people look at the cost of client acquisition strongly enough. And so I think the whole thing starts out with, number one, how much money do you want and have to make? What does your product and or service cost you to create, and include time in that? And then what is your sales acumen? How good are you at selling? How good are you at negotiating? All right. Because again, so many people make the mistake of just selling when they're not looking at. So at the end of the day, did I make any money? 95% of startups are not making it 5 years in our country right now. And the majority of that is because they don't have good cash flow. They don't have good profit margin. So we really have to look into our product and or service, see what the market will bear, See what our competitors are doing. Not that we have to price like our competitors, because our prices are quite a bit higher at times than our competitors, but because our value. And I think the key to pricing what you do is know your uniqueness, because where your uniqueness starts, your competition goes away.
You're talking to me, and I've heard you say it before, but boy, is it going back in my head. And it's like, yep, pricing is important. Sometimes we just lose confidence and try and fight for the bottom of the well, and there's no profit in that. Our uniqueness is what we need to focus on.
Absolutely. And it takes a while to really figure that out.
Yes, it does. But getting people like you to help figure it out, that speeds the process up. As an accountant, I can tell you that a messy sale is a nightmare for the books. What's one of the worst sales shortcuts you've seen a client take that felt productive, but later caused a massive administrative headache or financial loss?
I think that going from the inception and becoming an order taker versus an order maker. In other words, thinking like a retail store where people are going to buy something off the shelf. And so somebody will call them, contact them, and say what they're willing to pay. And then they take it. And thinking that, okay, we just brought money into the store. We just brought money into our business. And then when it gets to the accountant, and the accountant goes, do you realize you're upside down? That you might be able to keep the lights on right now, but based on this current situation, if you continue to charge like this, if you continue to shortcut your sales process and go right from original conversation to sale without all the steps in between, you're going to put yourself out of business.
And then you want to fire the accountant because they delivered bad news, because it must not be true. Well, from a sales perspective, how important is organization and documentation? How does it impact the predictability and speed of cash going from invoice to the bank?
In my office here, there's no pictures of me with famous people. Of course, we have a CRM where everything is tracked, but I have whiteboards on how many leads we're generating, how many appointments we're setting, how many sales meetings are we doing, how many get closed. I keep a profit and loss ledger on every client to make sure there was profit. We just finished our boot camps, our 3-day sales boot camp and our 3-day speaker boot camp. So many speakers, trainers, and coaches would like to put on their own events, but they wind up losing money. So on day 2, we hand them all a profit and loss ledger. I teach them my methodology for putting on events. And then we go through every dollar that we spent and every dollar that came in. I mean, whether it comes to manuals, the room, every single expense, tools, everything. And then we do the math and they see what was our net profit. And so we recommend strongly that people keep a P&L, profit and loss, on what they're doing quarterly or monthly or however you would work with them to go over their P&L with their accountant, with their bookkeeper, with their partners, and make sure, hey, we are making money and we have everything on record.
We hear a lot about the cost of acquiring a customer. Can you share a story about a client who was burdened with high customer acquisition costs and how your sales process allowed them to maximize the lifetime value of their customer?
Well, I think of a client I worked this in the last year, and they were spending a lot of money on pay-per-click. They were paying a lot of money on Facebook and LinkedIn ads. So they were putting a lot of money into creating what I call an inbound marketing business. And it was thousands of dollars a month. What we helped them do was learn how to generate leads without ads. We have 17 ways we generate leads, but then we taught them the skill of taking their business outbound. And within 30 days, they cut off the spend. They were able to start booking appointments and they were able to start getting cash flow. And literally it saved their business because they weren't putting thousands of dollars into advertising when in fact the type of business they had was very easy to turn around and make it outbound. See, the inbound method of business will cost you a lot of money. The outbound approach to business is less expense and higher revenue.
Particularly when you have a system.
Exactly.
Well, Joe, one final question, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you share with our audience today one of your proven techniques? One that if they do it, they'll guarantee a more stable and growing bank balance.
Yeah, I believe one of the most proven techniques we have would be how to create masterful messaging, how to create the type of messaging that qualifies the prospect. We call it our value proposition, training, coaching, whatever, where it normally takes 4 to 5 hours to literally tear apart your business and look at all the benefits, results, and solutions that business provides and work that into messaging that whether it's on your business card, on your website, your LinkedIn profile, coming out of your mouth, it's what's in it for the client, which will absolutely, instead of hunting, we don't hunt, we fish. So in other words, we bring qualified people to the table or not, which increases closing ratios because you don't have to feel like you have to be this hard closer because they're already pre-qualified buyers.
You said it was like you fish instead of hunt. So you're saying the bait is good marketing message.
The bait is qualifying in nature. In other words, if I know a person would like to open up a consulting, speaking, training, coaching business, full-time or part-time, then I would say to them, we specialize in helping speakers, coaches, trainers, and consultants make money with their talent and intellectual property. If they don't want to make money with talent and intellectual property, they don't qualify for our training. If they just want to be better presenters, they can go to Toastmasters.
There you go. And that is clarity right there. And you are the king of clarity. I know from experience. Well, Joe, you gave us so much to think about. For the small business owners who want to dive deeper into building their sales process and stop those bank account dips, what's the best way for them to connect with you right now?
Well, let me first give them the free gift, then I'll give them contact information. If you take out your cell phone and go into your text area and put the word Sales Edge, that goes into the message box. SALESEDGE has to be one word. Text that to 59925. 59925. That is going to take you to a Peachy and Peachy link. Hit the link, and that'll take you to a splash page. There is a free 40-minute sales training webinar, completely free. So how do you get in touch with Joe? The first way is to call me up to get a complimentary cup of Joe. I'm not going to sell you. We may not qualify for each other, but I will answer a couple of your questions for no fee. That is 407-947-2590. The other thing is go on to our Peachy and Peachy website, PICIANDPICI.com. Free downloads. Also, our other website, sellmorevirtually.com, all one word. That'll give you a free webinar also. And listen to our podcast. Comes out every Tuesday. We're up to 523, called The Sales Edge. Those are all the ways you can connect with me. Of course, you can send me a LinkedIn invite. Joe Pici, I'm pointing at you, and we'll connect.
Joe, I remember that first cup of Joe that I had with you. I saw your mug. It said Cup of Joe on it, too.
Yeah.
I remember doing that first time, and I was so hesitant. And then by the end of the conversation, I was like, oh, I got to do this. I highly recommend it for everybody who needs some help with their sales. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. It's so great to see you again.
It's good to see you too.